No, I'm talking to you.
Okay,
We're on record.
fabulous. Welcome to the Golden Pathway Zoom seminar. The Golden Pathway website was designed to help spiritual seekers transition from world religions to the teachings of the Ascended Masters. Archive 5 years of recordings on vital and pivotal issues on the spiritual path. These cover health, relationships, prosperity, healing your psychology, and this year's topic, strategies for victory. So led by internal promptings, much to my surprise, all of this year's sessions have focused on astrology. I'm Patricia Parham, your host for today, assisted by Rosalinda Siciliano, who's operating the Zoom, and our presenter is Kathy Garcia. Her topic is strategies for victory in the U.S. 2020 elections. Exude joy to propel the Ascended Master candidates to victory. So if you're wondering what planets and configurations contribute to the transitioning happening in the US right now, or if you have been feeling weighted down by the news of rioting, looting, and murder in our cities, or if you're scrambling to stay positive and win the victory for the Ascended Masters, prepare to take note. You should have received a handout with a specific call on the astrology impacting the US election, and I invite you to embrace Kathy's transformational astrology to raise the positive trajectory of your life, our country, and your country, and the planet. So as you mute your devices, allow me to introduce Kathy, though some of you know her. We just met recently. But Kathy Garcia was approved by Elizabeth Clare Prophet to be an astrologer for the church in 1990 and has been in the teachings for over 40 years. She was a babe when she joined. And she served on staff for a while. She developed transformational astrology, which builds on the teachings of Lord Maitreya, Mother Mary's cosmic clock, and the Kabbalah. And she founded the Three Magi Complete Astrological Services to build an approach to astrology congruent with the dawning age of Aquarius. An author, Kathy has written a book, The Hero's Journey, which is published in English and Spanish. She's fluent in both languages. And she's also developed the only software programs on astrology for children and their parents and for teens and their parents. Kathy holds a BA in anthropology from Tulane University and also studied at University College and London School of Economics. Residing in Montana, she is the mother of 4 adult children and gives readings virtually. I extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to Kathy Garcia.
Thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rosalinda. What a joy to be here. And I greet everyone who has come and everybody who will hear the recording. And please permit me to begin with an invocation. Are we ready? Okay. Mighty I am presence and holy Christ self, take command now for my superconscious, conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. Mighty I am presence and holy Christ self of each one gathered here. Take command now over each one's superconscious, conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. We invoke the fleur-de-lis of the goddess of liberty to be over our threefold flame. We invoke the Holy Spirit, beloved Mahachohan. We call the beloved El Morya, Dwal Kul, Kuthumi, the Three Magi, to tutor our hearts. We call the beloved Guru Man Lanello to be tangibly present. And beloved Cyclopedia, open our eye and open our understanding. Blessed Jesus and blessed Mother Mary, we call for illumination that we may understand how to use astrology as a tool for our own victories, for the victory of our organization, of our communities, our families, our planet, and to bring in Saint Germain's great golden age. We pray that Mother Mary be between us, that only the Christ pass between us, and Archangel Michael to go before, behind, to the right, to left, above and below, to protect us and to protect this meeting. And we are so grateful in God's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so we come together today to look at the election day astrology for 2020. What a time we find ourselves in, what a time it has been, and what a time it is. I know that I speak to a mixed audience, but I know that we all are students of the Masters, some of us keepers of the flame for many, many years. Most of us have some, if not a deep understanding of the cosmic clock. So I do pray that all of you have a certain degree of patience I will try to be very simple, but I will also try to be detailed and to give insights that will really help us to understand what is going on and how we can use astrology as a tool during this time. So the most basic understanding is that there's so many cycles, some of them hundreds of thousands of years old, that are coming together at this time that we find ourselves here. And of course, if we want to zoom in, we want to remember that we are in the Aquarian age. We want to remember that we're in the Aquarian age, and astrologers have different dates for when this began. But Mother. I agree with Mother that there's been acceleration of time. We saw evidence really toward the end of the century that we were moving into the end of last century. We were moving into the Aquarian age. It's very apparent in this century. And once Mother mentioned that the American Revolution was really the precursor for the age we find ourselves in right now, right? So many of you may know that the Aquarian age is the age of love, universal brotherhood, and it's also the age of the Holy Spirit. And so this is Saint Germain's great golden age. And we gather here together. Our purpose, our united purpose is that Saint Germain's great golden age might become a reality. It is becoming a reality, I believe, and that we not spiral into the dark time that we see that the opposition to this golden age would really bring ourselves into. We have been told that we would be coming into a time of spiritual awakening. A couple of Friday night services ago, there was a wonderful call that was made. I think the dictation was from Rayo Light, and it dealt very specifically with this spiritual awakening. I came across a pearl of wisdom, a dictation by Archangel Michael. And he was saying, I demand a spiritual revolution. I demand a spiritual awakening. Whoa, imagine that. Imagine Archangel demanding. Well, we're here. We hear many people in the news coming together, speaking about this meeting between light and darkness. And this came up in the DC vigil. Somebody asked the question, and we will be looking at the different charts of which we have the tools to make our analysis. But our nation is coming into what is called the Pluto return, which this will be the first time since the conception in July 4th, 1776. So having said that, just as a beginning, and that our strategy is only victory and only victory, let us continue. So,
I know you want to change the slide, so.
yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so perhaps you've heard this. I actually heard this once on the alternative on a Q site, but it was saying God wins. And that sounded so right to me and so right to remember. I know that, individually and together, some of the moments of our lives right now can be very, very challenging. And it is, I think we have to remember that God has a plan. And I did speak about this during the vigil, but I don't think that all present here were there. So, how do we as keepers of the flame use astrology? And I think it's important just to go over a few basic keys, and they're very important because astrology, for people on the spiritual path for many, many decades, people were discouraged from studying astrology because of the wrong approach. So this comes from Lord Maitreya's dictation, which is called The Astrology for Twin Flames, that I encourage everybody to review. I was given on March 24th, 1985. It is in a pearl of wisdom. And so he says, though there be benign as well as negative influences, the relativity of astrology must be replaced by the absolute presence of the true stars, who are the ascendant masters surrounded by their causal bodies, whom you call forth. Therefore, recognize no other influence in your life except the presence and the causal bodies of the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood, forming the true rather than the false astrology of thy life. Casting the divine probability, which is subject to free will, rather than the astral prediction, which binds that will by the curse of a predestination. Okay. So, and you can take your charts, whether you're taking that of the United States, you're taking your natal chart, or you're taking your own chart, and you can actually put, for example, on election day where the sun will be in Scorpio, you can actually put the all-seeing eye there. You can put a gem, you can be intuitive, and you can actually put pictures of the masters or gems. I think Valerie has spoken about the gems as reminders and as bringing forth their presences, because really calling forth the light and calling forth the masters is really what makes all the difference. Okay. All right. Also, there's a beautiful teaching from Mother called Out of the Heart of the Issues of Life. I do believe that Mother Mary was overshadowing Mother. She's mentioned in her last comments, but it's so inspiring. And there she says, astrology must be seen as a path of initiation of hurdles that must be leapt over. People often say to me, is it good or is it bad? And I say, it's all good, right? It's all good. It's all good because it's your journey. It's our journey. We're here. It's what we're working with. And even when we will be talking as we move on and look at the different charts of what is seen as positive astrology. But if we don't use the positive astrology, if we don't, it's money in the bank. But if we don't really use it, then it won't give us the victory we need. And often the more challenging astrology is just what we want, because in this embodiment, we want to come through the Christ consciousness, through the balanced threefold flame. We want to pass every test. And so this is a quote from Mother, but I think it's so apropos today and always. And let's see, it says, like the Knights of Camelot, we come together at this critical hour for our nation and the world to champion the cause of truth and virtue and honor and justice by challenging all that would assail, all that would be the antithesis of these attributes of God in the body politic, in society, in daily life, in all that would affect children in every part of the community. Now, I'm sure that many of you know, and we'll be talking about this a little bit more detailed, but that we're in the midst of this, we have been in the midst of the great Capricorn mega conjunction. So we know that Capricorn deals with power. And we know that when you think about what is God power, what is God power? And Mother once commented that you could think of 144,000 virtues within God power, right? And so, but what we see and what we come to champion and to come together courageously right now is we see the antithesis, we see the abuses of power, right? Now we're in the Aquarian age. This is very simple, but very important. So as the light of Aquarius comes forth, think about Jesus being the avatar of the Piscean age. What a time of tremendous change, right? Tremendous change. So we come into the Aquarian age, and every day there is an influx of the light of divine love. And we need to come up, in our personal lives, let us not look always outside of ourselves, but let us look within ourselves and in our personal lives. And we need to be in that place that we are the chalices and the expression of divine love. Now, what will happen with this influx is that love will also bring out hatred. Have you ever heard in the news the word hatred more than you have in the last, since in 2020? Have you? I mean, we may have all experienced it here or there or known it personally in our lives, but have you ever seen it so strongly expressed? Right? And so you do see the antithesis. You do see the antithesis. I did give this example, I do believe, in the vigil. But for example, and there's always a choice in astrology. There's always a choice, right? And so on June 5th, there was a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. That means that the sun was in Gemini, the moon was in Sagittarius during that eclipse, and it created a crisis. And so what we want to be is in the mind of Moria. We want to be in the mind of God. We want to embrace our history. We want to embrace our history. And if there are issues in Sagittarius that we need to forget, that we need, where we feel resentment, and we might feel resentment, and it's a fire within us, even if we know better, we might feel resentment. Then we need to know that we need greater forgiveness. Perhaps we need to learn how we can forgive the unforgivable. But if we have a rolling momentum of forgiveness, we will be in the vibration of God victory. So if you look at all the chaos that has been around us since June, then you'll see that there was a lot of destruction, a lot of the negativities of Sagittarius, a lot of resentment, revenge, retaliation, destruction of history, but also in a more quiet way, but a very strong way. There's been a tremendous coming together of people like I've never seen in my life in a great way. So before we go on, I just want to mention that, I want to mention that I don't know how many of you heard the Ave Maria that was at the end of the RNC, the Republican National Convention. Oh, it was so inspiring, wasn't it? Wasn't it inspiring? It was so beautiful and so moving. I've heard it 3 or 4 times, and every time it brings tears to my eyes. But you know what the vision I got? And as I said to myself, wow, I never thought in my lifetime I would see this, right? But you know what the vision I got was? I got the vision that at the end of the convention at the White House, there would be, "Hail Saint Germain, hail Freedom Flame." So just wanted to share that with you. Okay, so now in that astrology, it was really Lord Maitreya that came forth, and in that astrology for twin flames told us we had a extraordinary necessity to daily challenge the astrological energies. It is only energy. Remember that it's only energy. But there are so many people that seem to be a creature of this energy, right? But and so this is where he opened the way for us to study astrology. But he says that we should look upon the astrological chart as a formula that can be broken by the mathematical, we should look at it as a mathematical formula that can be broken by the mind of Maitreya within us, the mind of the cosmic Christ. So that's what we need to do. And that would be a great coming together and talking about that, right? So, okay. Okay, so this is a stamp from Nicaragua, and this is George Washington crossing the Delaware. And if you Google, you'll find that there's so many stamps and flyers and posters of George Washington in so many different countries around the world. And the title of this is "With God, Nothing Shall Be Impossible." We have been called to have the courage of the founding fathers. And as George Washington was looking at his ragtag army, at the best fleet coming before him, it was an impossibility. It wasn't logically possible to win. But he and the patriots had in their hearts that liberty was that God wanted liberty. And with God, nothing shall be impossible. And this is like the Odyssey that Homer wrote with Pallas Athena coming in and making the difference, right? So I think that I like to remember this because I think as we look at astrology and we're living our daily lives, I think we would like to bring encouragement to others. We have been told that we could be raised up and be sponsored, but we also need encouragement ourselves. We also need the flame ourselves. And with God, nothing shall be impossible. Okay. So, do we have the signs of the times? Here we go. All right. So in that same pearl of wisdom, the astrology for twin flames, Lord Maitreya says that if we're going to use astrology, we should master it, right? Now, I know that just like I think St. Paul actually spoke about this, we all have different talents and we all bring different of our talents to the fore. And we're not all going to become masters of this or masters of that. But I think to the degree that we're being challenged by Lord Maitreya, we can learn some of the particulars. I do believe we start with the cosmic clock. You start with learning the cosmic clock. You learn about the basic concepts, the signs, and then like this is the election chart on November 3rd. Of course, we're looking at the election on astrology. It's a lot more than November 3rd, but I wanted to just discuss a little bit of this. Now, I guess Patricia, is Patricia still there? Well, don't see her anymore.
I'm here, sorry. I was on
Oh, okay. No, what I say during my consultations is that I understand myself perfectly. So if you don't understand me, you have to let me know.
She did say that.
But since you're on board, I'll say to you, if you don't understand me, I can't ask everybody listening, obviously. But if you're on board and you don't understand me, let me know, because I really would like to express myself in a way that is practical and gets this information into people's hands in a way that can be used.
Okay, great.
So when we look at the any chart, the most important position is the sun. And as I mentioned before, the sun is at 11 degrees Scorpio. The sun is 11 degrees Scorpio. Later on, we're going to be looking at the natal chart of the United States that El Moria gave us, is when George Washington was inaugurated on April 30th, 1789. And you will see that the natal sun is at 10 degrees Taurus. Now, can you see the sun here in Scorpio here? See, the sun is in Scorpio. And you see here that on this election day, the sun is going to be opposite Uranus in Taurus. So I want to bring to your attention this opposition. Can everybody see that? Okay. Now, I just mentioned the United States natal sun. Now, the planet Uranus moves relatively slowly. So transiting Uranus has been over the United States sun all summer long, and will again. It's kind of retrograding. You can see there's a lot of retrogrades. It's retrograding out, and then 2021 will come back in again. And but the negative Uranian aspects, a few of them are disruption, chaos, shattering, the unexpected. And so we've certainly seen a lot of this. But the positive word and the concept we want to keep in our mind is the awakening and breakthroughs. We want to call forth breakthroughs. Now, Mother gave a teaching once that was so phenomenal, I felt, although she gave it very quickly, it was in the heart of the inner retreat and my ears perked up. She said that it was our records of rebelliousness that makes us vulnerable to the negative portents of Uranian astrology. Now, that is in your chart, the nation's chart, etc. So we may be very obedient Sheilas. We may be doing our best to listen to our Holy Christ self and our mighty I am presence and follow the path. In this particular lifetime, we have maybe given years of violet flame, but we don't know what we did in our past life, the last 10,000 years, the last 100,000 years. And if we did clean it all up, well, then we take on the Lord's burden. We take on world karma, right? So it behooves us to remember that teaching. And right now, Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is the sign of God obedience. And guess what? That's where we find Godfrey on the cosmic clock. So if you get this, if you have this chart, if you want a copy of it, give me an email. But if you get this chart and you want to put a picture, for example, of Godfrey or George Washington, whatever inspires you, I think it's very appropriate. Okay, in any case, that was like the open door. That was the open door for the chaos. But I myself in the news have never seen so much awakening. Amazing what people are saying that is so good and positive. People learning the Constitution. It's been great. All right, so I wanted to mention that to you. Also, you see these three planets over here, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in Capricorn. Judo, Pluto, and Saturn in Capricorn. This is what's left of the mega conjunction that came in January. Now, excuse me? Okay, so there have been, this echoes the mega conjunction of 1988 and 1994, but this one is more, excuse me? This one is more powerful because it brings in Pluto and Saturn. Now, when we look at history, like we looked at when Cortez went in to Mexico City, which was then Tenochtitlan, these two planets were there. So we know that, and also we look at the American Revolution, Pluto and Saturn were in alignment with each other. They weren't in Capricorn, same in the Civil War. So in terms of big things happening that can change the course of civilization, yes. Astrologers worth their salt knew this years ago, right? Okay, so here they are, and Jupiter just expands everything. Here they are, and they're going to be there election day. I want you to become aware of this. And I want you to be aware also that in December, Jupiter and Saturn are moving in, they're moving out of this, they're moving into Aquarius, and we only one left we're going to have is Pluto and Capricorn. And some people think, oh, it's going to be a lot better then, right? And yeah, there's reason for saying that, makes sense. But last time when Saturn went into Aquarius, which was at the end of March, we really got a lot of hatred coming in. So we have to really stress the divine love within ourselves and within others. Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is in Pisces. It's been in Pisces for a long time and will continue in Pisces for several years. It is retrograde. Now, do you remember when we read that we were replacing the astral prediction with the divine probability? Do you remember that? And that it's subject to free will. So now we're thinking of the free will of the people. The free will of the people. Personally, I'd love to hear people's comments, but personally, my greatest concern right now is with Neptune. My greatest concern is with Neptune. Why? Because Neptune creates illusion. Neptune creates illusion, delusion. When you think of viruses, depression, you think of misuse, vaccines, a lot of these, and also people just all of our young people and people somehow who are in, illusion means that what isn't real, you think it is. Now, Saint Germain said, enough of this Neptunian nincompooperi. And the positive Neptune is grasping a high and spiritual and transcendent ideal. The high of the positive of Neptune, we have Kuan Yin and Jesus walking on the waters of the emotional body, right? We have faith never known before. We have the peace commanding presence. Jesus comes on the 2 o'clock line, which is the natural place of Pisces on our cosmic clock. And who does he come with? He comes with the great host of ascended masters. And Saint Germain comes in Aquarius, which we've mentioned, with the great host of angelic beings. Okay, so the moon moves very quickly through the signs, but it will be in Gemini. It is part of this finger of God on November 3rd. And I will be moving in Gemini. I asked myself today, I'm wondering if El Morya is still running as a candidate for presidency. I hope so. Remember that? Well, we want the mind of God. And so we're going to be talking more about this moon in Gemini as we look at the different charts. And then Mars has been since the beginning of July in Aries. Mars can be in a sign for 3 weeks sometimes, but Mars entered, it depends, but Mars entered Aries in July and stays there till July 6th. Mars in Aries in and of itself is considered a very positive placement, but fires, anger, right? The Antichrist. There's a lot of negatives here. We know Mars is a fallen planet, so we really need to call forth the positive. We need to call forth our victory here with Mars. And then I'm not going to speak too much about it right now because we have a lot to look at, but I want you to keep your eye on Mercury. Mercury has to do with the male and has to do with communication. It has to do to some degree with the law. And Mercury also deals with education. And so these are basic concepts. The moon also deals with the emotions, our emotional body, and we want to put the moon under our feet. When we do the rosary that day, we can really call for Mother Mary that the moon be under our feet and that we have our victory of the moon in Gemini. Okay. I'm ready. Okay, so here's our 2 charts. Here's the basic 2 charts that we're working with. Can we make, oh, thank you very much, terrific. Okay, so we have the July 4th, 1776 chart. This has been called the conceptional chart. Now, this is the day of the Declaration of Independence. We are so grateful that Morya gave Mother the exact time, and it actually coincided within a minute with with Dane Ruddia, who is really a fantastic astrologer, I believe, from the last century. Because I can tell you that there have been whole books written about this chart with all different kinds of rising signs. So we have the chart as it is, and we were also, let's stay here right now on this slide, but I did mention the natal chart, which we'll look at afterwards. That was April 30th, 1789. Now, Mother brought this forth when she was teaching on the astrology of the 4 horsemen, and I have found in my experience that this is correct, that the July 4th, 1776 chart, really, when you look at national trends and what is going on with the nation, this is the chart you're going to really want to look at. The natal chart also figures in. It figures in a lot with foreign affairs and economy, which is so important right now. So anyway, I just want to point out a few basics about this chart. This is the blueprint of this nation. Morya said that the Declaration of Independence was the most courageous declaration ever made in history. Can you imagine that? Imagine that. Okay. So I want you to notice that the U.S. sun is at 13 degrees Cancer. Quite a few planets in Cancer. Cancer is the sign of Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara stands on the 6 o'clock line, but it's a sign of the Divine Mother. Now, 13 degrees, there are particular degrees that are very important in astrology, and 13 degrees is one of them, right? And 13 degrees Cancer is the degree of the god star Sirius. And so here we have the concept of Surya, and we have the concept of God government. And when the declaration was made, people in Europe and other places were calling this a new race. This was like a new race. So here to me, in a nutshell, but I would love to discuss and share, to me, this is the bringing forth of the culture of the Divine Mother and God government, okay? Now, we notice that there's a grand air trine here. This, I believe, this is a very positive placement in anyone's chart. And this I do believe, thank you, but you can see the threefold flame. So when you have a grand trine, you have the balanced threefold flame, right? And this is showing, this is not just something you're born underneath, but it's brought forth from much history. And I do believe this also has to do with all that we inherited from Western civilization, from all we inherited from hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, and the Judeo-Christian tradition. So, but here also, air is communication. Air has to do with, come, let us reason together. Come, let us, we have free speech. Let us discuss, let us share, let us find the right answer. Argument in the positive sense of the word. Argument in the sense of let us argue to find truth, right? So this is a very positive aspect, but, and it's the but that makes it so interesting, right? Can you see that it is perforated here, that it's bisected? You see that? So this would be a bisected grand air trine. I never noticed that before I was preparing for the DC Vigil. I noticed that this asteroid Lilith, which is called the dark moon, was exactly, which I don't pay that much attention to, but except when it's exact. I noticed it was exactly opposite the United States moon, which is in Aquarius. This is, this was a very revolutionary concept. And this is but Leo, which is the anchor of the Aquarian age, is the sign of children and gratitude. Do you think as a nation that we do not take for granted our freedom like we might have a few years ago? Do you think that we're more grateful? Do you think that people have become more aware? It's just but also Leo is the child. And if you go to my blog post and you do read, I did write about the child in the last 2 posts I put up, but you know that what makes us karmically vulnerable as a nation is abortion. And so really, I spoke about our karmic vulnerability through records of rebelliousness, but also I think, this is us calling for forgiveness, and there are many people in government and in this country and in the world that are fighting for the child more than ever before, and for the rights of the child, and not only in abortion, but I heard, to end sex trafficking and so many of the abuses. So I bring this forth to your attention for the victory of the divine family, the victory of children, and the victory of the United States of America. Okay, so let's go on the other side, and let's go look at the natal chart, April 30th, 1789. And by the way, with the, yes, here we go, the natal chart. Now, Moria told us that, that Godfrey, as George Washington, was the Christed one. He was at that level of consciousness. So when he took the oath of office, and he won unanimously, when he took the oath of office, this country had that imprint of the Christ. And you think about the Aquarian age, where more people than ever before have the opportunity to balance the threefold flame, which Jesus came to reignite, right? And to be endowed with the Holy Spirit and to come to higher consciousness in love. Okay, so a few basics. The sun is in Taurus. Remember I said Uranus was upon it? Remember that? See that right here? Sun in Taurus, 10 degrees. What a crazy summer. Hasn't it been a crazy summer? Okay, you're right. But that's not because the sun is in Taurus. Taurus is, if we have any Taurians out there, Taurians are usually pretty stable people, except when Uranus is upon them. Okay, and then you have the Virgo rising, and I want you to know that Saturn is in Pisces. Trining, here we come again, all these positions in Cancer, beautiful positions in Cancer. I'm not going to go into it right now. It's just like I don't want to overwhelm us with detail, which is probably my greatest challenge because there's so much I want to talk to you about. But I want to tell you that in these two charts, there are, and the chart of the Constitution of the United States, which is September 17th, 1787, there's a lot of patterns of tension, but the patterns of tension are written into it, you know, for checks and balances and things like that, right? So it does. I don't see the challenging astrology as negativity necessarily, but as this almost necessary tension. Okay. All right, so these are our tools. When we do astrological analysis, we're looking, you know, we have our tools. We have, if you call me for a consultation, I'm going to say, when's your birthday, right? Okay. All right, so here are some key concepts. And some of these I've already mentioned. They say that repetition is the mother of learning, and they're really not that many. I did remark about the mega conjunction. Yeah, when the mega conjunction, the first one, no, maybe this is 1994, I believe, a mother gave a talk and she said, how the mighty are fallen. How the mighty are fallen, which of course is a biblical reference. It was actually from King David, you know, when he saw the death of Saul and Jonathan. Okay, now I already talked to you about keep your eye on Neptune. We already discussed that, right? Neptune.
Warning,
Huh?
10-minute warning.
How many?
10.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to have to move. Then let's move on. I've already talked about all this stuff, so let's move on. Okay, thank you for that. Can we make, okay, so let's make this chart the April, let's make it, yes, okay. So when we're looking, thank you very much. This is the April 30th one. When we're looking at the 1776 or the April 30th, when we're looking at both of them, and we're looking at them, this is for November 3rd. So a lot of the challenges that we're already seeing. We're seeing the, you know, we're seeing the male. We're seeing, you know, the great, you know, the push and the opposition and the, you know, the whole issue of the male and balance through the male. Mercury coming up over and over and over and over again. And so here you see Mercury definitely challenged on that day and during the times that we're living. This is definitely part of it. You see that also, though, that the moon in Gemini is making this grand air trine. This is going to be in the 1776 chart. It's going to be in this chart as well. And so this is wonderful for us coming together. This is very positive astrology. And then you also see this Neptune trining the moon and Jupiter, which is excellent as well. And with this Uranus and Leo, this has to do with the faith of the people. You've heard that the silent majority that isn't so silent anymore, the coming together of the people in, you know, almost in this, a real revolution of light. What concerns me is the Neptune conjoining Saturn, is the people that think the world is ending, that feel suicidal, that, you know, there's so many challenges that are needing of care and compassion and faith and comfort right now. And here's a little detail that's very interesting. You know, we look at the progressed chart as another clock, and we notice on that day that the progressed sun on the April 30th chart is at 26 degrees Sagittarius, and that's conjoined what's called the galactic center. That's conjoined the galactic center, which Mother once commented on, had a relationship to the great central sun. And even though we have the opposition, we have the difficulties, and we want to call for the binding of delays. And all delays, and I think I put all this in the study sheet and the call sheet I gave you, the delays the upsetting of the electoral college and of the process of the vote. But this, in and of itself, this I see heaven coming in, bringing it forth. Almost the backfiring of the opposition, for a greater, bringing forth a greater good. This is definitely victorious. There's so much here that is victorious and good. So we can get through it in time. Let's keep going. Okay. I wanted to look at Donald Trump's chart. Now, astrologers believe, thank you, astrologers believe that if you are in an organization, like Linello has asked us, to look at his progress chart as an ascendant master, right? And his natal chart is, so there is this astrological concept that we are within the chart of the leader. Now, in terms of Donald Trump, he does have the Regulus rising, very strong leadership. Of course, pray for him. And let's go to the right-hand side where I had my notes, please, about, yes. Okay, so Trump was born during a lunar eclipse. The sun was in Gemini and the moon was in Sagittarius. Did you ever hear about fake news and all that business before with another president? Okay.
Regulus rising.
Regulus rising, very good question. Okay, that the rising sign, this is a star in the constellation of Leo, and it was in Napoleon. It was in Napoleon's chart, for example. And if you read my book, The Hero's Journey Through the Zodiac, and you read under Leo, I actually give the teaching on how Leo was, how Napoleon had Saint Germain over him, but then he got into pride, and that's when he met his Waterloo. Right? But when astrologers predicted that 2016 that Trump would win, part of it was just that he has such strong leadership. Now I know Mother said that Hillary Clinton was embodied as Mussolini. And I know that it's been around that Donald Trump was Patton. But I never heard that that was confirmed from the altar. But I have written charts comparing them, and I have to, if I did say that, Patton, who did say to end communism at the end of World War II, he was betrayed. So one of our calls has to be, and even if I didn't know this, one of our calls should be, we want to call for the Holy Spirit. We want to call for the binding of intrigue, treachery, and betrayal, right? We want to bring the great culture of Santa Clara and the culture of the Divine Mother in. We want to call for the God protection of our president and his family on his divine destiny and our destiny. Okay, so let's keep moving. So let us give this together. Together we find the alchemical key. Would you like to lead us in this, Patricia? In the I am the light of the heart?
All right, together. I am the light, of
the heart.
Shining in the
darkness of
and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end.
Now, I have given this over and over and over and over again until anything within me that is believing that darkness is greater than the light within me is dissipated. So God in us, the I am in us, is shining in the darkness of what is going on to change all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. Mother says, if you feel burdened, if you feel heavy, you need more violet flame, because the way together and forward is joy. We are together, the I am in us, projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. Well, that gives us like 2 minutes. So is there a question on the chat or Or do you have something you want to say to people, Patricia? Or how do we want to use
see
the
any
minutes?
questions on the chat, but I would like to open it up for questions if people have them. That was really fantastic, very enlightening. I thought it was great.
Thank you. I'm so grateful.
Larry
And I offer to
said
come
the
back.
scent of roses. I don't know. He's smelling roses. What a blessing.
What
Any
a
other questions
blessing.
for people? Please unmute yourself.
It was beautiful. Thank you so much, Kathy, and we do want you to come back.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be with my brothers and sisters of light together.
We do have a few minutes if you have questions that you'd like to ask. Well, you all must be really good to have understood all of that.
Could you put the screen back to that information on Trump, please? I just want to have a quick glance.
And I do remind you to please make the calls for him and for his health and well-being.
Angela's asking, do you think Trump will win the election?
I think the people want Trump to win the election. I think that's pretty obvious. But I think that, you know, and this is going to go on way beyond the election, right? Because this is not just about who's going to win. This is about our Constitution, which makes us is the divine document in our nation. This is about, I heard that sex trafficking was 96% down at the southern border. This is about Planned Parenthood being defunded. This is about really bringing forth the golden age, right? And I think that the wave is there for a tremendous victory, and I think the opposition to disrupt everything is mounting, but they shall not pass.
Can I ask something?
He's only a man. We need to make calls for him.
Can I ask something real quick? Do you see the House of Representatives having a change as well? Do you see anything like that we get more conservative people in there?
Well, I think we need a total victory. I mean, you know, right now we use the words conservative, but we want people who understand the message. And yes, you know, we don't want to have this, when we look at the United States Mars, I didn't have time to bring up more with it, but we don't want to have this infighting, and we don't want to allow ourselves to be pitted one against the other. You know, so we need to have a great majority. We need to have a great majority of light bearers and of people holding the flame of the victory and who love this nation. Absolutely. So the answer is absolutely.
So there'll be a change in the legislature too.
Oh, all across the board, but it's all across the board. And also for those that are exposing the truth, you know, who are so persecuted, it seems complex, but in a way it's very simple, right? And we need to have our victory, but the times are tumultuous and we need to be prepared and we need to get through this time together. That's the way I look at it. And we're in the time of the judgment. We're in the time of the judgment of the Watchers and the Nephilim. And to me, what my greatest concern with Neptune is that I'm not saying anybody is this or anybody is that, because we don't really know. But we know that in that hour, that those who have nothing to lose want to take as many light bearers with them as they can, and that's their revenge. And we want all people of light to be where they need to be, and ourselves at the right time, in the right place, doing God's will to the best of our abilities, right? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Amen.
Adrian asked about the economy. Is there any astrology indicating the golden age financial system will come soon?
Well, I think you really loathe them, don't you, Patricia? Well, I think that's the beginning of our next getting together. We can talk about the Pluto return. Pluto is in the second house of the 1776 chart, and there's already, I think we're going to hear about it very soon. There's already an economic reset happening. You know, you see that Trump is very calm because he's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. That's quite amazing. So I'd like to hear that question again. I would, if you could put, it's up to you, but I would love to meet on Golden Pathway and focus on the economy
Okay,
and on that issue.
we would love to have you come back in January and tell us directions and help us to see what to make calls on at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. There's two other questions up here which you may or may not want to respond to. One has to do with the Supreme Court pick, and the other has to do with Joe Biden's chart.
Oh, well, okay. Well, first of all, it just came to me. I hope that with the economy, do you remember that in the Declaration of Independence, when Thomas Jefferson first wrote it, he wrote it that he did have about ending slavery. Do you remember that?
He had
But then when the first draft of the Declaration of Independence was written, it was written that slavery would end. Right, but because all men are created equal, right? But so much of the economy of the southern states depended on slavery that they would not ratify. And John Hancock had rightfully put forth that we're not unanimous, it won't be ratified. So it had to be taken out. And in that 1776 movie, although I don't know it's in the movie or it's historical, John Adams is saying future generations will pay the price for this. And then you see the same astrology coming up again with Uranus and Gemini coming up again during the Civil War. So much has to do with the economy, right? So much has to do with the economy. Okay, Biden. What I want to say is Biden, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Pelosi as well. And you know, again, we either have God victory or we have anti-victory, right? But I'm also concerned about human sympathy, but not overly concerned about his astrology, to tell you the truth. And what was the other question?
That was it about Biden. Someone is asking about putting Gemstone Focuses on a copy of our POTUS natal chart.
Absolutely. And if people want it, send me an email and I'll send, let me know which chart you want and I'll send it to you.
Okay. What about the Supreme Court pick? Is there anything that says we'll get that done before the election?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Fair enough.
But what do you think? Do you think we need to get it done before the election?
I do, yes.
Okay, well then, in that case, we need, in the call sheet I gave you, particularly when you don't even need to know, but the number one call and anything with Mercury, you can give any of those calls and then just put that in as your fiat according to the will of God, and put the way for the clearing of the way. And it's just amazing. I have relatives in New York, and I saw it with Kava, and they're very wonderful people. They've been very kind to me, et cetera, et cetera. But when I went in September last year, they were watching a comedian make fun of Kavanaugh after he had gone through all that, everything he went through, which was so disgraceful. And they were laughing at this comedian making jokes about him. You know what I mean? And so this whole attitude, right? So it's beyond just what the pick, it's just the awakening of the people. You know what I mean? It's the awakening of the people, and that we need to put that in our calls. We need to help clear the way. We need to help clear the way, and we need to let's call to God according to God's holy will to make this happen. Yes, it can happen.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Kathy. I want everybody to know that I had my first reading with Kathy this past Thursday, and one of my questions I had planned to ask her today was why she called this transformational astrology. Well, I have to tell you, I don't have to ask that question after having that reading, because I left with new directions